Hi, everyone. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? I'm Meghan Murphy. This is Mary Lou Singleton.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing, Mary Lou?
Pretty good. Been arguing with my son about my thought crimes, and I'm a little agitated about it. But I'm just trying to remember how much I used to argue with my parents because they were wrong about everything, and all of their beliefs were so deeply offensive to me. And
I guess it never ends.
no, never. The cycle of life continues. Right?
What are you arguing with him about?
My belief that the human condition is now getting medicalized and into mental illness identities of all of his generation. And he says that's not true, that I don't understand how much people suffer, and that these identity, that mental illness is real. And I have no idea what it's like to be anxious or depressed or have thoughts you can't control.
Oh, Mary Lou, I'm so on your side. Like 100%.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that your son is wrong about everything.
I need to, yeah. I mean, this is an old problem. I need to listen to some Cat Stevens and just like with that father and son song. Remember, like this is an old issue of the youth arguing with their elders. I participated in it.
I know. You always think you're the most right when you're the most wrong.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think of all, like I would just torture my parents with my now what I believe are very wrong opinions, but I thought they were wrong about everything,
I mean, I think I tortured everybody with my opinions that were stupid.
Yes.
Like, for so many years. I would like constantly, like I'd go out to the bar and start arguments with people about communism. And feminism, of course. Like imagine how people still seem to like me for some reason, but because that seems like very unlikable behavior.
Totally. Like, my family continued to, like, my family never rejected me or uninvited me, even though I tortured the whole extended family with, my political beliefs and my need to let them know how wrong they were about everything. And I was like this leftist punk who ruined Christmas over and over again. So I have it coming.
People are the worst. Like they're really the worst.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad to not be young anymore. I mean, young at heart, I guess. But
I believe I'm correct that all of the medicalization of human suffering is not helping people. No one seems to be getting more mentally healthy with all of this. And I think it's so narcissistic to believe like my suffering is different and special. Here's the new one I heard today. Here's a hot new disorder that just dropped, which is what is it? Rejection dysphoria disorder. Rejection sensitive dysphoria disorder. It's where you have really strong negative emotions when you are rejected.
Oh, fuck. Wow. Can you imagine?
Well, normies like you can't understand, Megan, but that's like
for me it feels so good when I'm rejected. I react in a completely healthy, unemotional way.
Yeah, totally.
Not like a crazy person.
Not like a crazy person, no.
I keep rediscovering how horrible I am at rejection. Like if like a relationship doesn't go my way, or like a hopeful relationship doesn't go my way, and I'm just like shocked and appalled that anybody would dare reject me, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Well, you probably have rejection sensitive dysphoria.
You wouldn't understand.
No, you have severe emotional pain whenever you get broken up with. It also is likely to run concurrently with ADHD. That if you have rejection sensitive dysphoria, you probably also have ADHD, and which I wouldn't understand either. It's not like I, can understand what it's like to be disorganized and be reading, 8 books at once and have a messy desk. Not be able to focus.
Procrastinate.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm just over it. I'm so tired, but I never thought it would enrage my child for me to express my opinions about the medicalization of the human condition and angst. Anyway, that's what I've been doing. I've been I've been experiencing rejection sensitive dysphoria over my son rejecting me.
I mean, I'm actually very interested in this topic because I think it drives me crazy as well. And it's next to impossible to have these conversations or arguments with people who are convinced that they have one of these disorders. I mean, I feel like, and I always want to say, but like they don't believe you. And I always want to say, listen, if I like, technically I have ADHD, like I have all of these symptoms. I just don't believe, first of all, I don't want to be on medication, certainly not meth.
Exactly.
Second of all, I just think that it's normal that as a human being, my brain doesn't operate like a robot. Like I'm like a flawed human being, and there's things that I struggle with and things that I need to work on. And I guess it's frustrating, and maybe some people are better and different than me at some things, but there's probably some things that I'm better and different at, and life isn't perfect. Like I just don't, and you know, like the other reality is that in terms of things like anxiety and depression, I mean, there's the best, most effective ways to deal with those problems are not through medication, they're through exercise.
Right.
And well, then, also, you know, like change sort of like coping mechanisms like cognitive behavioral therapy, but or just like, you know, I've had to learn, okay, I'm feeling really anxious, I'm ruminating, I'm stuck in this like negative or stressful thought cycle, like I need to leave the house and go for a walk, or I need to leave the house and go to the gym. Like you need to just kind of shake yourself out of it and bring yourself back to reality somehow. And but again, also it's like, okay, life isn't perfect, and sometimes we struggle with things. And if this is like a really serious ongoing thing, then you need to figure out sort of what's driving it and try to do, like maybe it's your job and maybe you need to switch jobs. Maybe it's your relationship and maybe you need to get out of your relationship. Or maybe you need a healthier lifestyle, or I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's your coffee addiction. Maybe it's that you're not exercising. Like these are the things that come up for me when I'm feeling really anxious. I'm like, oh, I'm drinking a lot of coffee and I haven't exercised in 2 weeks. Or I'm on social media more than usual, and it's making me tense.
Instagram.
Right. But I think the worst thing we can do is get hyper focused on ourselves as individuals and believe that our suffering is somehow different than and worse than the suffering of other human beings. This is a realm of suffering. The first great Buddhist truth is there is suffering. Life is suffering. Like people have been saying this for thousands and thousands of years. It's not new to discover that the human condition involves a lot of suffering. And the way to transcend suffering, like you said, is get busy, go help somebody, look around, which is what I did. I was getting like, oh, my life, my son is mad at me. And I realized, like people whose kids are like severely addicted, people whose kids are in jail, like this could be so much worse. I just have a Gen Z lefty child who thinks I'm a thought criminal.
I know, and he'll get over it. It's not going to destroy your relationship forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand why it would be stressful. Probably not as intensely as you, since I'm not Gen Z.
I know it threw me off. Well, I thought that we were getting along pretty well. You're right. It's a whole other conversation of the way these generations are being brainwashed into believing they're all mentally ill and that they're wrapping their entire growing young adult identities around these DSM labels.
Yeah. And, it's sort of like I always wonder about all the statistics too, because all the statistics are, and even people like Jonathan Haidt, who I think is great and really smart and obviously has done tons of good work in this area. But, like if you reference statistics that say, teens or Gen Z or whatever it is, they have like, they're exponentially more depressed or anxious or whatever than ever before. And that probably is true. But at the same time, it's like, but no, we weren't overdiagnosing in the way that we are today ever. I guess maybe the disorders were called something else, but I don't think that there was a trend of this insane overdiagnosing of young people with never-ending disorders that they needed to be on medications for.
No. And I think that there was an understanding that feelings and developmental states were ephemeral and temporary, and you just because you're depressed as a teenager doesn't mean you're going to be depressed next year, and trying to get people to understand like you're going to grow and change. And the worst thing you can do when you're in an intense feeling state is to think globally and project that onto the rest of your life, right? Like, I'm going to feel this way forever. And these mental illness diagnoses do exactly that, of like, oh, you are depressed. Like, that is who you are, which is like a curse. It's a really unhealthy way. Like, you're never going to get better if you believe that about yourself.
Yeah, and that's the thing that makes you more anxious and depressed.
I know.
Ironically, because it's like, if you're feeling depressed or anxious, like, I think the worst part about those feelings is that you can't imagine feeling better. Like, you have to know on some level from experience of having felt anxious or depressed, or like, going through the first time I went through a breakup, it was like the most sad I've ever been in my whole life, and it was horrible, and I thought I was never going to get over it, and I just, like, I couldn't even function. This is when I was 20 or 21 or something like that. Like, I couldn't do anything. Like, I would go out with my friends to the bar, and I would start crying at the bar. I would cry on the bus on the way to school. I would just and I was just so upset and so sad and distraught for so long. But eventually I got over it and felt okay. And it almost felt like, I mean, I'm sure there was a bit more progression than this, but it almost felt like one day I just woke up and I felt okay. And I was like, oh my God. And that was a great feeling, because you can relate it to what you felt before and how horrible it was. And you thought, and I was like, oh, and you almost feel elated, like you feel high, because you're like, oh my God, I feel okay. I feel good. So next time that something like that happens, yeah, it's horrible, but you still, on some level from having gotten through it before without medication, that it'll feel bad for a while, but you will eventually feel okay. And that's what you need to learn, I think, in order to also, like, to combat those feelings of depression, is you have to know that it's not permanent, and that, like, well, the only answer is you have to go on meds, because otherwise you're going to feel like that forever. You have to know that it's temporary. And also that, yeah, there's things that you can do, like there's healthy coping mechanisms and ways to sort of work on making yourself feel better, which, yeah, like they include all those things: exercise and trying to get enough sleep and blah, blah, but also like getting a life. Like, it's like, oh, like, what are you doing? And you're like, yeah, get busy, like get some hobbies, get a project, like work more. I don't know, anything. Just keep yourself occupied and moving forward with your life.
No, I agree. And then there's certain things like, I think of the grief of like the loss, like the death of a loved one, where you don't really get over that, but you learn to move forward. And the way you heal is to look around and understand, at some point in everyone's life, they are going to lose a loved one. And that, grief is a universal. It's not separate. It doesn't separate you from other people. It connects you with other people to feel that way. And that it's actually this beautiful thing. They have this like burning coal of sadness that, if your parents die or your child dies, that you can connect with other people who have grieved, and that's the way to move forward with that. Again, not to personalize it and not to get stuck in, my suffering is bigger than everyone else's suffering, and step more into everyone suffers. There's not a human alive that's going to be spared heartache and loss. It's just part of being here. And the more we get caught up in our own personal suffering, the worse it's going to get.
Yeah. I've been reading, I'm not all the way through yet, but I've been reading that book that you recommended to me, that Laura Delano, is that how
Delano,
you say it?
yeah.
Yeah, which is so good. So I don't yet know where it goes, although I can sort of predict. But I mean, she's diagnosed with bipolar. Is it called bipolar disorder? What is it called?
Bipolar disorder.
Bipolar disorder, which also is, I don't I don't know very much about bipolar disorder, so I don't know enough to know whether it's real or not. I do know that it's another one of those things that people are diagnosed with and told they have to be on medication for the rest of their lives because they're crazy. What do you think?
Well, I think that psychiatry is not, it's the least scientific branch of medicine. There aren't any blood tests or imaging results or like true objective diagnostic tools for anything within psychiatry. It's all based on the clinician's observation of the person's behavior and the person's report of their behavior. And like we said, feeling and their feelings and behavior are ephemeral. Like I would hope no one would take a snapshot of me at my worst and decide that's who I am for the rest of my life. Right. And so people pretend that psychiatry is like true medical science, but there's no other branch of medicine like that where we just give people questionnaires that may as well be out of like Vogue magazine or something, and then give them a medical diagnosis with very strong medications based on their report of how they're feeling. It's just really unscientific branch of medicine. So does bipolar exist? Like, do any of these things exist? Is rejection sensitive dysphoria real? Like, I do think there's a subset of the population that appears to have like some kind of true organic illness that leads to true psychosis. Like they're hearing things, they're responding to stimuli that no one else can see or hear or perceive. They don't have normal thought processes, or super paranoid, or that what we call paranoid schizophrenia looks the same across cultures, though we see a lot more of it right now because of drugs like both meth and cannabis can induce those same symptoms in people. But we don't have any medical tests to diagnose that person. Even with things like schizophrenia, it's all based on the clinician's observation of that person's behavior and that person and their family's reports of their feelings and behaviors. So I don't know what's real. Bipolar 1 is also something that seems to be across cultures. There's this little subset of people who have this behavior pattern where they go through these manic phases where they don't sleep, they are grandiose, they're hyper, they're spending all their money, they're having lots of sex with everybody, they're forming their own religion. Some of them are having like amazing downloads. Like quite a few very artistic people have had that temperament. And then they often cycle into, they can't get out of bed for months on end because they're so depressed. And those two things, schizophrenia and true manic depression, bipolar 1, from my perspective, seem biological, but there's no proof. There's no proof they're biological. Like we don't have any blood test that shows those people are different than someone not behaving that way. We don't have any kind of brain scan that says those people are different. But we know that across cultures, there's a little population, there's 1 to 2% of the population that seems to have that problem. And then there's the rest of all the diagnoses that are, I think, kind of bullshit, like I don't believe that these are any more real than the old Victorian labels for human behavior, like melancholy vapors of the heart. Like that was a psychiatric diagnosis in the 17 and 1800s, where you have, and to me, it's the more beautiful, like I actually could claim that. Like there are times when I have had melancholy vapors of the heart, and it really was, it was painful, And then, like the noxious night vapors, they were really into the vapors. Like the noxious night vapors would come in and disturb your sleep and make you really tired the next day and make you like sleep demon kind of stuff. Or what's another good one? Being elf shot. That's one of my favorites, where you're tired all the time and have wandering pains and you complain a lot because you're getting hit with invisible arrows that the elves are shooting at you. That was a medical diagnosis for over 300 years in Europe. So I think that most of what psychiatry is telling people they have now is no more valid than those other ways of trying to explain human suffering. humans want to have a handle on their suffering. They want a label. They want acknowledgement for it.
Yeah. Well, they also want to feel like there's a reason that they can't move forward in life a lot of the time. Like they use it as a crutch and an excuse. You know, there are a lot of people who I think use anxiety and depression to not move forward and not make their lives better. And then it's like, well, no one understands what I'm going through because I have this, you know, internal disability that nobody can see, and I'm different than everybody else. And sometimes I just can't do things that other people can do. And I think it's not that other people can't understand them. I think it's more likely that they can't understand other people, that they can't understand that maybe there are other people who struggle with this as well. They just haven't labeled themselves in the same way, or they've decided to plug on forward despite their challenges. And not make it like their whole identity and the reason why they can't ever be happy or do certain things in life that they might otherwise like to do, but they can't possibly. My most annoying, you know, diagnosis is always going to be ADHD, and I'm always going to be most baffled by the fact that really otherwise intelligent people keep telling me the amount of, like, I'm constantly meeting women who announce just mid-sentence casually, oh, well, because of my ADHD. Oh, well, you know, because of my ADHD. And I'm looking at them like, wait, I thought you were, like, these are people who are, you know, I don't know, like red pill based thought criminals, heterodox, like hateful, far extremists, bigots, like we are, but then they still believe in ADHD. So it always surprises me as a bit.
I know.
I think, well, why aren't you skeptical? You're skeptical of all these popular narratives, many of which have turned out to be bunk, but not this one where, like you, because of my, this is, you know, like, I guess people just really love to label themselves. They love to categorize themselves and think about themselves a lot, maybe in the same way. I don't know. I wonder if it could be compared to, you know, the people who are obsessed with their star sign or astrology. Oh, well, I'm like this because of this. Like, I kind of find that stuff fun and interesting.
I find that more interesting.
It doesn't direct my life in any way. I'm not like, oh, well, like, I'm not bringing it up constantly. Oh, well, I do in a joking way. I'm like, well, because I'm so charming.
Far less dangerous. Like, you're not gonna, you know, develop a prescription addictive drug habit based on like your, you know, my grand cross between my, you know, my Jupiter and Saturn oppose each other, and they're all in opposition to my moon and my Mercury, which actually I do have that grand cross. And I think it's, you know,
I guess it's not going to harm you in the same way that a mental health diagnosis.
No, it's interesting, but it is an example of humans trying to get a handle on how confusing it is to be a human, and how we do have suffering, and our suffering is unique to our perspective because we are all unique individuals. And I think astrology is actually a much safer way of self-diagnosing than picking up the DSM-3. And it's also like, it's less likely to lead to a lifetime of disability, where children are told, oh, you're on the autism spectrum and you have ADHD and you have rejection sensitive dysphoria. And what's another one? Pervasive demand avoidance. That's one where you don't like to do what you're told to do. Oppositional defiant disorder. And then by the time they get all these accommodations, so they never actually have to. Time blindness. They
that's real though. That one's real.
I know you have that. They get accommodations for it, so they never actually learn to wrangle themselves. They never have to like learn to be disciplined. They don't learn to make their way through the world. They're leaning on these things as a crutch. And then so many, by the time they're in their 20s, are literally applying for disability in the United States, where they're going to be just getting a social security check for the rest of their life.
On the government for the rest of their life.
Exactly.
The opposite thing that anybody should be doing. You should be trying your hardest to not be dependent on the government for anything.
But if all these adults and authority figures, this whole system has been telling you That's right. And here's another diagnosis and another diagnosis. I saw that working as a psych nurse. Is just like the people just keep accumulating more diagnoses. Like every time they see a new provider, a new diagnosis is thrown at them, and people believe it, and that it's very paralyzing for them. And so basically you have to be someone with another diagnosis, oppositional defiant disorder, to break free of it, right? Like it's like, don't tell me who I am. I refuse to believe what you're telling me.
Just re-diagnose yourself in order to get out of the original diagnosis.
Right. It's such an incredibly difficult bind we're in, and it's dangerous because there's so much. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry pushing this on people.
Yeah. Ardell was just asking if the Canadian government is still stealing my YouTube money.
Yeah.
And I think I've actually figured out, after many challenges and thinking it was impossible. I know it sounds like it should be something easy, but trust me, it's not something easy. I'm just not completely stupid, a little bit stupid. But I think I did manage to finally undo my country and begin the process of switching my like Google and Gmail, and which is all attached to my YouTube account, over to US. So it's not Canadian anymore. And I'm this close to being able to attach it to my US bank account so that the monetization that I have on YouTube, which is minimal for the record, will go into my US account instead of my still frozen Canadian bank account.
Oh, they shut you down. You can't launder all that money anymore.
No, where am I going to put all the cartel money? Oh my Lord.
And all that right-wing money you're getting from all those,
from who? Who's sending? I'm trying to think of what right, like they think that I'm getting money from the American far right. They probably think I'm getting it from like the Heritage Foundation or
sending you fat checks.
Ben Shapiro or something like that.
Matt Walsh.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great if Matt Walsh was sending me checks? I'd be really happy about that. Yeah, I'll never say a mean thing about Matt Walsh ever again if he starts sending me checks. I'm not even joking.
I know. But is your bank account is still frozen?
Yeah, but I also just like gave up. Like I didn't. After a week of trying to figure it out, I was like, fine, screw you. You know what I'm going to do with this situation is I'm going to use it to make you all look bad because you are bad, and I'm moving on with my life away from Canada and the Canadian government and Canadian taxes and Canadian income and a Canadian bank account. Screw you, psychos.
Wow. And you haven't gotten any closer to figuring out like exactly what justification they have or what?
Nope.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's, I don't even want to. Like, I don't want to spend any energy on this. I already spent enough of my energy trying to get a hold of these people and figure out what was going on for nobody to give me any information or call me back. Like, fuck off. Like, I just don't like, I just feel like the fact that they did it is so bad, and now they can just deal with the repercussions of everybody knowing that they do these kinds of things to Canadian citizens and to dissidents. And it's not my problem. Like, it's my problem a little bit, but it's not that much of my problem. I'm just not going to deal with Canada anymore.
That's so crazy.
Like, I don't want to argue with the Canadian government over their bureaucracy and their like communist, like authoritarian, draconian, whatever. Like,
is any of this creeping into Mexico with the new administration? And I only ask because I know a lot of American liberals who love the new Mexican president.
I mean, I don't know, like maybe, I don't know. Where I am, it's pretty lawless. I don't think that there's a lot of, the one thing that has been happening around here, which is annoying, but I can't actually figure out, like they've been kind of cracking down on unlicensed businesses here, but that sort of started with this Karen who moved here from California, this like fat rich girl, this white girl who moved here from California and started meddling in everyone's businesses. And she actually tried to stage like a pride parade here. And she tried to like go tell my landlord, like she tried to get me kicked out of my apartment for being a transphobe. And I was like, where the fuck do you think you are? Like,
Wow.
first of all, you're not going to get away with this here. So, and I was like, I called her out in front of everybody that we knew. It's like,
Oh my gosh.
don't mess with people. Don't come here from somebody else and start trying to meddle in other people's lives. This is not the vibe. Like, don't come here and start bullying people. But since she's been going around, she's like starting petitions and trying to get, she's like, these illegal businesses. And it's like, how dare you come to another country from the United States? You did not have to leave California. You chose to come here. This is how it is here. Things are not above board. Things are sketchy. Things are illegal. We like it like that. You start meddling in people's lives. You're meddling with people's employment and business. If you're shutting down businesses, that means that local Mexicans they don't get to go to work.
Right.
That's what you're doing. Like, what do you pretend I'm making the community better? What community? Who are you even friends with here? I don't see you anywhere. I don't see you at any of these businesses. Don't see you at these restaurants. Don't see you at these bars. Don't see you hanging out with anybody in town. What are you doing? Sitting at home starting fucking petitions to ruin people's lives? Like, get the fuck out of here. So I think that's part of it. Like, maybe there's some government connection crackdown, but she's, I think, been the ringleader of sort of alerting the government or the mayor, like, be like, you need to pay attention, like, go around. These people have stools out on the sidewalk that aren't supposed to be. These people are only licensed until 12 and they're having parties till 5. Like,
oh my God.
Are you crazy? Like, this is why people live here.
Right.
Like, this is why we're all here. Like, this is how it's been forever. What do you think you're doing? Go home. It makes me more angry than anything else. And it actually made me think about, like, these people who are being deported or maybe deported in the US because they're on student visas or whatever. Like, they're not citizens. They're on a visa, they're illegal immigrants or whatever. They're getting deported for being involved in these protests, for, potentially being terrorists or something like that, for I don't know. People are complaining that it's like a free speech violation because, they're being deported for wrong think or wrong speech, which I don't think that's exactly right. But I'm just like, you know what? I wouldn't move to another country and then start protesting that country. If you don't like this country, why are you here? Go back to your own country. Come here and shut up and make the best of it. Like, you're obviously here. Are you here? Like, you move here and then you're like, fuck the government. I would never do that. I'm not going to move to town and be like, hey, this is all bad. You should change it to the way that I like. Like, then get deported. Like, I don't care. I don't care what Palestine, Israel, no. You're not a citizen. You came here from somebody else. Shut up.
Yeah.
Be grateful to be here.
Yeah. Has she moved there full time? Like, is that?
Yeah, I think she's been here for a couple of years or something like that now. So, but I mean, it's always the white girls. It's always the white rich girls from California who are like, we should clean up the garbage on the street.
Yeah.
No. Leave the garbage there. I like it.
You know what Mexico needs is more trial lawyers and more safety regulations. Yeah, it's crazy.
Anyway, I can't remember exactly why I got onto this topic, but
I just asked if all of this I don't
know. I don't really pay a lot of attention to what the government's doing in Mexico, to be honest, with my life. I did just order. I've had a lot of like anxiety.
You do.
Maybe I should go get some medication.
Yeah.
I've been having a lot of anxiety about the summer coming because it's the storm season, and the power in my neighborhood goes out a lot during the storm season. Pretty much every time there's a storm, and in the storm season there's a storm like every night. So I was having a lot of anxiety because the power goes out. So I have no internet, so I can't work, and it's unpredictable, right? Like, you don't know. So just all of a sudden you can't work. Like, if I have a deadline, I'm like, crap. And you're in the dark and it's hot and you don't know when it's going to come back on. And I'm not gonna leave. Like last year, I left for all of August and September. I went back to BC. I think the year before that, I was probably gone for 2 months too. I was probably gone August, September, maybe even more than that. A lot of people here skip the summer because it's just a lot. Like it's really hot and the storms are harsh and the power outages are harsh and when everything slows down, so there's not much going on. And it wouldn't be the end of the world if there was not much going on, if you could still if I could still function and work and things like that. But but so anyway, and this year I was like, okay, well, clearly I'm not going back to BC for 2 months. Like first of all, I don't want to. Like last year, I didn't enjoy being in Canada for 2 months. I thought it would be like a nice break, but it felt like an eternity and it made me miserable and fat and lethargic and grouchy. I don't like being in Canada. People there don't seem happy. There's nothing fun going on, and I can't afford to buy groceries. So like I can't afford to buy meat, and that's mostly what I eat. So it wasn't like I was sort of like, well, it was nice for August. Like the weather's nice. I can hang out in the forest with the dogs. I can go to the beach and go swimming in the ocean or the lake or whatever. Then September came around and I was miserable. So I don't want to be back for so long, but I also just don't know if I can or want to even go back to Canada ever again because of what's happened. I don't know if I should. I'm worried that it's a risk for me. And so I thought I was having anxiety because I was like, well, I'm going to have to stay here the whole time. And I can't. That's going to be really stressful with work if the power is going out. So I just ordered Starlink. So I've solved one of my problems. And I'm really excited. Yeah, wow. I'm pretty stoked. Yeah, because then I think I'll just always have internet. And if I can get some good, battery fans and lights, then I think I might be able to survive the low season. Oof. In my house.
Oof. I do not. Yeah, the humidity and the.
Yeah, like it's already getting to the point where I'm like sweating. I have the AC on right now, and this is nothing. Like it's not even May yet. So come like July, August, September, it's rough. And of course there's usually like a hurricane, and then sometimes
huge storms.
And I forgot everything, but I wanted to mention that for people watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or comments that you would like us to address, please put them in the live chat. Use the super chat if you like. Texas is beautiful in August. I don't think that's true, but I did think about going to Texas I would like I'll be gone. I'll go for a bit somewhere. Like I would like to go hang out in Austin for a bit. I don't know. I'll go somewhere. I have some friends that'll be in Europe. I might go there if I can manage that. But I'm not going to be just out of here for 2 or 3 months. I'm going to have to.
I remember how hot it was in Austin.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as here. Like the humidity here. I don't mind the dry heat. Like this is intolerable. Like because it feels like you're in a sauna. And I'm like at the gym in a sauna. Like it's.
Okay. But I just remember thinking, okay, the sun's going to go down and it's going to get cooler. And then the sun went down and it didn't get cooler. And I thought I was going to die. I mean, I really thought I could die of heat stroke in Texas. Texas is very hot.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, you'll make it through. Maybe you'll get invited to Maine or something.
Oh. Someone's summer house.
Yeah, someone's summer house.
Only I knew more rich people.
Right.
Yeah, I might, if I can manage it, I might go visit. I have some friends from Ireland, and that would be a dream. I might try to do that. I have a friend who's Italian, so I might go try to see him in Italy. I've never been to Italy either, if I can afford it, things like that. But yeah. Okay, so one of the I don't know if you followed all this, but one of the topics that I sort of was trying to ignore it, but have not been able to ignore it because it won't shut up, is this ridiculous meltdown that the like male heterodox world is having, which to me seems like a battle of the egos, and once again proves that men are much more delicate and sensitive and dramatic and emotional than women are. Because I'm like, are you guys really having a like meltdown because Joe Rogan had somebody on the podcast that you don't like what he says?
Well,
really?
Yeah.
Is that really what you're doing?
Yeah, I found it so boring that I just couldn't get past just witnessing what looked like very juvenile behavior to get into what they were actually arguing about. Like what's even going on? Like why is Konstantin Kizin like, just being a jerk to a guy that I thought it was his friend 5 minutes ago? What's even happening here,
Well,
so what is the crux of their problem with each other?
Well, so Rogan had Dave Smith and Douglas Murray on his podcast to have a debate about Israel and Palestine. I listened to the whole thing. I thought it was very good. Like, I found it quite interesting and compelling, and I thought they both did quite well. And I agree with Douglas Murray's position for the most part. But I thought that Dave Smith made good arguments. I think he's a smart guy. Maybe he doesn't know everything. I'm not an expert on these issues either, so I just found it interesting to listen to.
Right.
And then afterwards, like, I don't know why that should to me just be okay. Oh, they hosted this debate. That's like, Rogan doesn't usually do debates on his podcast, so that's new.
I thought that they both did a good job. I thought,
yeah, me too.
I could see the merit of both of their arguments. I watched people on both sides of that issue pull segments to explain why it's like Dave Smith obliterates Douglas Murray on this topic, and then other people like watch Douglas Murray wipe the floor with Dave Smith. It's like, okay, that's a sign they both did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I know exactly. Like, my timeline was evenly distributed towards people who thought that Douglas Murray unequivocally won and people that thought that Dave Smith unequivocally won and made the other one look stupid. And exactly. I think that's a sign that they both did a good job. But all the fallout after the fact was, people, including Douglas Murray and Konstantin Kizin, saying that, it's turned into people criticizing Rogan.
Yeah.
Because he had, they felt that he sided with Dave Smith, which is whatever. Okay, he's allowed to. Yeah. It's his podcast. He can do whatever he wants, actually.
I mean, they have a lot more in common. They're both comedians that, they're Americans. Like whatever. He's closer friends with him than he is with Douglas Murray. But I think he respects Douglas Murray.
Of course. I'm sure he does. I'm sure he does. And so it was, they felt that he sided with Dave Smith. And then it turned into a lot of, he shouldn't be having people like Dave Smith on at all. Or the guy who makes the Martyr Maid podcast. I've completely forgotten his name. Here, let me look it up now, actually. Martyr Maid. Who the frick is the host? Somebody tell me. Daryl Cooper. Because they're like, the arguments are just so eerily what they were all against a minute ago. Essentially he's spreading misinformation. Like Konstantin Kizin published an essay sort of arguing. He writes, for years I have celebrated the rise of new media. So we're sort of talking about freewheeling podcasts and self-publishers and the independents and things like that, people who have moved out of or away from mainstream media to do their own thing. And its impact on our ability to seek truth, challenge false narratives peddled by legacy institutions, and transform the way we conduct our public debate. The rationale behind my thought process seemed solid. After all, the media is the message. And I guess what he's saying is that he's changed his mind because this is actually causing harm and causing damage, because we have people who are not real experts or not real historians who are being given the same weight as the experts or the actual historians or the actual scientists. Like, it's so, to me, reads as, trust the experts. It is to me, it is kind of saying, like, trust the experts, not the plebs.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, okay, even if these guys, Dave Smith, Daryl Cooper, whoever, even if you're saying they're pushing dangerous ideas because I'm not familiar enough with these guys to know if this is even true or not. I did try to listen to Martyr Made a little bit, but I didn't really get through it. There's a lot of content. If they're sort of trying to make out Hitler to be less of a bad guy, I just feel like it's like, let people say whatever they want to say.
Right.
Let people say harmful things. Let people say wrong things, and let other people say what you're saying is wrong and harmful.
Right.
Like, what do you want?
If the only argument you have is an appeal to authority, you don't have a good argument. And I 100% believe that the antidote to bad speech is more speech, right? Not banning people or throwing around words. I hate that term misinformation. I find it incredibly dangerous. It's to hear heterodox men throwing that word around is frightening.
Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that he specifically said misinformation. Okay. This is just what I'm reading into the arguments. Like, the arguments are against presenting people who are not experts as experts, who are saying things that aren't true or that are harmful or dangerous. So I'm saying misinformation because that's what that means, but I don't want to necessarily specifically say that Konstantin Kisin has used the term misinformation.
So what was his problem? Like, I just saw him whinging and going off on Brett Weinstein, but I didn't understand what he was upset about.
Well, Heather and Brett just did a podcast and discussed this conflict on the podcast. I listened to it yesterday. It's good. I agree with them. I really like both of them, as always. And I think, they make an argument similar to what I'm saying now, which is that they're becoming the thing that they stood against. Like, the reason that the intellectual dark web and this heterodox community, whatever you want to call it, came up was as a means to challenge and push back against the dominance of mainstream media, big media, is dominating the narrative and ensuring that certain ideas and facts couldn't be expressed. The foundation of this sphere was free speech absolutism, not free speech unless it's bad speech. And I think that what's happening is that these guys who are mad about people like Daryl Cooper and Dave Smith being platformed because they're downplaying anti-Semitism or the Holocaust or whatever it is, are really, maybe they're saying they're not, or they're not using the exact same language, but they're making the same arguments that, it's that experts should be elevated. And I just don't like that. It doesn't mean that everybody's opinion is equal, but I think that people should be able to decide who and what they want to listen to. And I guess if it's bad information, then so be it. But we need to have the open debate and the open discussion so that people have access to the information that says, actually, this isn't true because blah, 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 or, be exposed to the better arguments that will hopefully convince people that what, this person is saying, that, trans women or women are wrong.
I don't really understand why there was such heat around it.
I mean, to me, a lot of it seems like a battle of the egos, and
Mhm.
I find it like you guys got too big for your britches if you think you're
Yeah,
gonna shit on how Joe Rogan does things.
I know,
Because
right?
obviously he's doing things right because he's the biggest podcaster in the world by far.
I know, totally. Also, isn't Dave Smith Jewish? I
I
think
don't
he's
know,
Jewish.
maybe.
I'll Google it while we're talking. Like that whole like claims of anti-Semitism. I mean, there is a lot of anti-Semitism rising right now, but I don't think Dave Smith is guilty of that. Yeah, I mean, what do you think
I
the
mean, it
future
was the
holds?
argument, like one of the things that was focused on was Douglas Murray saying, he said, hold on, I have it written down somewhere. Let me just find it. Like, have you been to the crossing point? So, because Dave Smith is talking about what's going on in Gaza and what Israel is doing to Gaza, supposedly. Have you been to the crossing point? And Dave Smith says, what? Like, am I not allowed to talk about it now because I haven't been there? And Douglas Murray goes, you've never been? And I actually I think that argument is valid in some ways. It's like, I do think that you you have more leverage to speak on something if you've been somewhere and you've spent time there and you know people there, you have a closer connection to what's going on. But everybody has opinions about all sorts of things that they've never personally experienced, or they have opinions on places they've never been to. Like, it's like, okay, well, I can't have an opinion about whether or not this war is bad unless I've been there. Or
I've never been to Afghanistan, and I've got some very strong opinions about what's happening to women there. This is
Well, it's like, and people will now tell me like, oh, well, you stop speaking about Canada. You don't live there anymore. It's like, no, I'm never going to stop speaking about Canada. I lived there for 40 years and I do know what's going on there because I still maintain like a very strong connection to Canada. And I'm paying attention more than apparently most Canadians because I seem to know what's going on and most of them don't.
Yeah. Dave Smith is Jewish and he's the grandchild of Holocaust survivors. So he qualifies for Israeli citizenship. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that's, my whole life there's been debate and heat around Israel Palestine that nobody's going to settle this issue. But I think it's the more debate the better. But I'm just wondering what's going to happen as I watch men like Constantine like get more egotistical and rigid and argumentative toward their cohort, like toward their peers. Like, I wonder if that's going to go. Like, to me, that's a more interesting question than Israel and Palestine, which nobody's ever going to figure that out. Like, that's just a, perpetual, that land mass has just been under, it's been through war and conflict in perpetuity for 6,000 years. But what's going to happen to these heterodox guys? Like, are they going to make up, or is like,
well, I hope that they argue themselves all right out of this sphere and then the women can take over.
That would be great.
Like what happened in the heterodox sphere is that it became a bro sphere in a lot of ways. There's some women who are allowed in. Barry Weiss.
Barry Weiss is allowed in.
Who else? And some of the porn girls.
The porn stars can come.
The porn ones, the pro sex work ladies. I'm joking, but like it's, I don't know.
Tulsi Gabbard. Well,
she doesn't have a podcast.
Oh no, she doesn't. You're right. Who are the podcasters? Right. No, chicks can't podcast.
Podcasting longer than everybody. Not everybody, but a lot of them.
Yeah, they don't know their blind spots around that. Yeah, that'd be great if we saw that rise. I mean, then there's like Candace Owens.
Take over.
Candace Owens is going off the rails and but she's getting a bigger and bigger audience. Yeah, she's really gone crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think if there's other things that I wanted to say about this because I'm skimming over a lot and I'm oversimplifying everything. And I'm sure if any of them watch, they'd be like, that's not my whole argument, which is true. And then Rogan was getting picked on because him and Tim Dillon on that last episode sort of mocked a bit what Murray was saying about you've never been there. Which whatever, they're comedians, they mock everybody, so
Exactly. No
get
one's
over it.
immune to it.
Like,
Yeah.
come on. And then I saw James Lindsay tweeting, as a potential and former guest who doesn't agree with Joe on some issues, I can't decide to go on now without considering that if I accept the biggest podcast in the world might make fun of me behind my back later in front of 10 to 20 million people, this will have repercussions. And this was in response, like he quote tweeted this guy who I've never heard of, or woman, or who knows, Neoa Berg, who tweeted, so Joe Rogan is the kind of guy who waits for over a week, then decides to mimic Douglas Murray for calling him out while he's in their insanely trashy behavior. I'm like, you guys, stop taking yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
Like, this is so, first of all, in general, people who take themselves too seriously, it's a very unattractive characteristic. You know, like, have a sense of humor. Second of all, what, Tim Dillon and Rogan all of a sudden can't make fun of this one person, but they can make fun of it. And it wasn't like they were being super mean. They were just joking around. And Douglas Murray was being kind of rude and condescending about Rogan. So what? They're not allowed to say anything? Like, he was being rude and condescending. You know, he was being openly and publicly critical. So they can't make a joke now. And now what? You're scared to go on Rogan's podcast? Come on.
Oh, that's just James Lindsay's way of asking to get invited onto the podcast. Like, James Lindsay's star is setting. It's not rising. Like, his time is kind of over, don't you think? Like, he's not the hot guy right now, where Rogan is staying steady. Tim Pool is staying steady. And part of that is because the masses can relate to these populist comedians more than they can to James Lindsay's like over intellectualization of everything.
I mean, Tim Dillon is, you know, this is one of the best podcasts out there because he's hilarious, but he also has like really, really great, insightful commentary. Like, he really knows a lot. Like, he's actually a really smart guy, but he's also very funny, and it's a great combination because, you know, you don't always want to listen to somebody over serious. And I'm not going to listen to just a comedy podcast, because if I'm listening to a podcast, I want to get something out of it. You know, I do sort of want to be learning something or thinking about something or whatever, because otherwise I feel like I'm sort of wasting brain space. But
these guys they're brilliant jesters in the, you know, today's times. Like Jimmy Dore as well, like really brilliant, funny guy. Tim Pool is funny and incisive. James Lindsay is Tim Dillon. I'm sorry. Tim Dillon. Sorry. Tim Pool bothers me more.
I know you don't mean Tim Pool.
These dudes, no, Tim Dillon is very funny and he's very smart and he's relatable. Like, they're populist. Like, they break it down in a way that people can understand, where I'm someone who used to, you know, really take pride in my elite liberal arts education and my ability to over intellectualize everything. And I can't stand listening to James Lindsay. It's like, break it down, dude. Like, that, you know, you're boring. You're boring everybody with this. And James Lindsay doesn't know how to be funny. So I think him getting involved in the conversation, saying he wouldn't go on, was really his way of saying, hey, bring me on the podcast, guys. You know, I need some attention.
I feel like all these guys are sort of trying to pull leverage. Like, they think that they're more powerful than they actually are. And I think they might take a step back.
Yeah. I can't believe that I was calling Tim Dillon Tim Pool, because Tim Pool is so gross. But Tim Dillon is a very, very funny guy.
I don't want to be associated with anything that Mary Lou is saying on this podcast, just so everybody listening knows.
Now you won't get invited onto his podcast.
I mean, I like James Lindsay as a person, and I like Tim Pool as a person. And I can't remember who else came up, but
Who else did I insult?
Yeah. I'm like, who else am I? Well, how many things do I have to distance myself from in this stream? But, you know, everybody can have their opinion. The other thing that I have to bring up that I can't believe I almost forgot to bring up was this weird which is related, this weird Free Press article.
Which
Did you
one?
read this?
No, I didn't.
Our elites don't deserve this much hatred.
Who wrote this?
Somebody named Tyler Cohen, who I don't know who that is, but the quote that got me, which I tweeted, which I had to read over and over and over again because I was like, I must be misunderstanding this. This can't. Did this get printed? Did this get printed in the Free Press? And people are sharing this? But it did. And I'm pretty sure I didn't misread it. I'll read it out loud and then we'll see.
Okay, let's hear it.
A lot of people do not want to admit it, but when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, so it's in defense of elites and elitism.
And that's the example they're going to use? I'm upset already. Go for it. Keep going.
A lot of people. Okay. A lot of people do not want to admit it, but when it comes to the COVID-19 pandemic, the elites, by and large, actually got a lot right. Yeah. Most importantly, the people who got vaccinated fared much better than the people who did not. So this is stated as though it's a fact, despite the fact that this is not a fact. And as far as I'm aware, the opposite is true. Then he goes on to say, we also got a vaccine in record time against most expectations, as though that's a good thing. This is how I'm interpreting this sentence. Operation Warp Speed was a success. Long COVID did turn out to be a real thing. Low personal mobility levels meant that often lockdowns were not the real issue. Most of that economic activity was going away in any case. Most states should have ended the lockdown sooner, but they mattered less than many critics suggested. Furthermore, in contrast to what many were predicting, those restrictions on our liberty proved entirely temporary.
What?
all stated as though these were all truisms, truths, facts. This is the facts. And I was like, what? None of that is true. None of that's true. That's not true.
That's true.
It's not true that the vaccinated fared better than the unvaccinated. The opposite is true. They fared worse.
Yeah.
The vaccine was way more harmful than it was helpful. Those are the facts.
Especially for people under 75, there might be some evidence for the first round with Delta, maybe, but no, for the vast majority of people, definitely for men under 40, it was much more like the vaccine was much more likely to kill you and permanently harm you than the virus.
But I think it made COVID spread more.
Mm-hmm. No, it didn't work. The vaccine did not work. Clearly it's not working. Oh my gosh. Okay, so does it go on and talk about other things? Is the next paragraph about actually some men are women and it's good to castrate children? Is that the next paragraph?
No. The next paragraph said, not reopening the schools was a big mistake and meant a lot of lost learning, but plenty of elites protested at the time. A lot of the problem was with risk-averse school districts and teachers' unions. The essay is sort of confusing and hard to read. It's not a very... I found it difficult to discern what points he was trying to make.
Written by a high schooler.
A lot, blah, blah. Like, this part's pretty boring. Mistakes. Like, he admits other mistakes were hooking COVID patients up to ventilating tubes.
Yeah, that was
killed a bunch of people. But he downplays even that. He says other mistakes were hooking up COVID patients to ventilating tubes, and in parentheses says corrected pretty quickly, like after killing a bunch of people, but he doesn't mention that.
Yeah.
Dumping COVID patients back into nursing homes.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
Not corrected quickly enough.
Oh, we only killed tens of thousands of elders and other people on ventilators for other reasons.
Yeah, and dismissing the lab leak hypothesis, corrected only slowly. In each case, ask yourself whether elite methods of scientific investigation failed us, and mostly they did not, even when the elites did. Okay, wait, I'm going to read one more paragraph. The dissenters, who also usually have records that are quite mixed rather than fully positive. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis complained pretty loudly about lockdowns later on, but early in the pandemic, Florida was pretty strict. Whether correct or not, in light of the enormous risk, that was his best call at the time. Too many who despise the elites do not look closely enough at the dissidents or assess what they get right or wrong and how they got there. But at the end of it all, if you're unhappy, then the solution is more intellectual elitism, not less. Delusional, lying to yourself, delusional.
Who wrote this?
Somebody named Tyler Cohen in the Free Press.
Tyler Cohen. It's so poorly written to begin with. It doesn't sound like an essay by like a high schooler, and just using.
Let me see if I can figure out who he is.
Wow. Why do you think they're printing that?
Well, I don't know, but my opinion is, it says Tyler Cohen is an American economist, columnist, blogger, and podcaster. He writes for the New York Times and Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal. So he's an elite expert. I think that he wrote that, and that Barry Weiss would publish it in the Free Press, and that certain of these heterodoxy people would celebrate it because they don't want to admit how wrong they were about COVID. So they're trying to pretend that actually they were right about a lot of things, but they were actually wrong about everything. They're still wrong about everything, and now they're publishing things that are still wrong about everything and pretending that they're right.
Wow. Yeah, that's
like the lockdowns weren't that bad. They didn't really they didn't have that big, the impact that they had on the economy. That was going to happen anyway. All those businesses were going to go out of business anyways. All those people were going to lose their jobs anyway. This was all, it was almost like, oh, well, this kind of needed to get done. And that just downplaying everything that happened.
Notice he didn't talk about masking.
They were wrong about a few things, and the dissidents were wrong about things too. But it's like the dissidents didn't make billions of dollars off of being wrong, and these people weren't wrong. They lied,
and many of the dissidents
ruined people's lives and killed people. The dissidents didn't ruin people's lives and killed people because they got some things wrong.
Well, many of the dissidents were formerly elite experts, like Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff and Ron DeSantis. I mean, he's like in there too. Why doesn't he? So Gavin Newsom's an elite, but Ron DeSantis isn't. Like, what is it even? Who's even talking about? Who are these elites? What separates the elites from the dissidents in his analysis? Oh, there's so many things wrong with it. And he doesn't talk about masking. What about like telling us to put a soggy piece of cloth over our face and masking toddlers? This is this is interesting that they're playing this now. It's
so weird and kind of just, it's this thing where it's like you're becoming the thing that you started out being against and trying to challenge, and now you're becoming it and you can't see it. And I really find it kind of disturbing and gross, to be honest. The first sentence of this article is, just to give you an idea of what the argument that he's making is, how did we get to a place where there is extreme mistrust in supposed elites? He's defending the experts and the elites and saying there actually should be more experts and elites and we shouldn't mistrust them. They got some things wrong.
Don't mistrust them. Yeah. Our governor in New Mexico literally told us we could make a mask to save us from the most deadly virus ever known to humans in our lifetime out of a sock. And she gave us instructions on how to use a gym sock to make a mask to protect us from the deadly virus. And then she held these press conferences all the time. And at one time she was wagging her finger about how we weren't masking while she herself was wearing a crocheted mask with a duck on it, a crocheted mask with all these holes in it like this. This is why people don't have any faith in the government. Like, you told us to put a sock over our breathing holes and that was going to help with any kind of situation. You wore a mask, hand crocheted mask full of holes in it, and
people wearing masks in the pools and at the gym,
in the shower,
in their cars,
to
the bathroom at the restaurant, but not at the table, on the airplane in between bites.
Not to mention just the inanity of pretending we could stop the spread of a virus that was already all over the world by locking 70% of people in their homes.
By Fauci, who then profited from the solution that wasn't a solution at all, who suppressed actual treatments.
What did he say about the lab leak theory? That I can't remember the word that he used, but it was not, like, people who mentioned the lab leak theory were violently suppressed. Like, people lost their jobs over saying that this was probably made in the coronavirus gain of function lab in Wuhan, China. It's like, no, it came from Chinese people eating raw bats. That's how it happened. And it was just this, I mean, the amount of gaslighting that we've lived through, I can't believe that they're doubling down.
No to the experts. Get out of here with that shit. No.
You don't trust the elites.
Trust
enough.
the plebs.
Yeah. Or the elites who are dissidents. I mean, John.
No, I know.
Wow. Yeah. No one talks about how Sweden got it right. That's so fascinating to me.
These people were wrong about the vaccine, and they don't want to admit it. That's what's happening.
They were wrong about the lockdown. They were wrong about masking.
They weren't brave on this issue, and they want to pretend that that's okay. Mm-hmm. But it's not okay.
No, it's not okay. It
turns out they're not brave.
They're not brave. My favorite argument that they put out, I guess it's my least favorite argument actually, is, well, the dissidents were right, but they were right for the wrong reasons. They were just being reactionary or racist, or
they just happened. They had crazy conspiracy theories, and some of them just randomly happened to turn out right. But it's not because anybody should have listened to them. We still should have censored them from the internet and fired them and tried to turn them into, dangerous criminals who are speaking hate speech and killing people them in their homes. Their bad ideas.
Right. What did Noam Chomsky said? The unvaccinated should be locked in their homes and denied access to food. That was a rough one for me.
Lord. Sometimes they get things wrong.
Oh, that's so upsetting. I'm really disappointed in Barry Weiss for publishing that. I don't understand what her...
Well, wasn't she wrong on the vaccine? Like, wasn't she wrong on COVID? So that's what I assume the motivation is. She doesn't want to admit that she was wrong.
She went on Bill Maher once everyone was fed up with it, and she had her whole, I'm over COVID, I'm done with it. I did it all. Now I'm ready to be done. But she fell for it. Like, she was, admits she was like wiping down her Amazon packages with Clorox wipes, and she double masked for a while, and she ran out to get the vaccine and the booster. I don't know how many shots she's had, but I think she's had at least 3 in her admission. Yeah, she was wrong on it. Brett Weinstein was wrong. Remember,
and Quillette was wrong on it. So that's Quillette. There was Quillette people who were sharing the article, and it's like, no, you guys were wrong. You were wrong about the vaccine.
Quillette was completely wrong. I mean, Colin Wright was wrong about it. Mm-hmm. Christina Buttons was wrong about it.
And whatever. Okay, be wrong. Like, I've been wrong about lots of things, but then I just admit you were wrong. Don't try to double down and gaslight us about this and be like, well, actually, people who got vaccinated fared better. No, it's not what happened. And don't downplay what happened, because what happened should never be forgotten or downplayed. And it was horrible.
It was terrible.
Wrong. Every aspect of it was wrong and sick.
Completely wrong. I can't believe downplaying the what I would call the homicide of elders in the care homes, where they, like, especially in New York, they put people actively sick with COVID in the homes that were full of elderly and sick people. And then they killed so many elderly people by putting relatively healthy young people who just need to be quarantined into nursing homes. It was murder,
and then forced them to die alone.
Yes.
Wouldn't let their families come see them, and forced these poor, old, sick people to die alone, and wouldn't allow their families to see them before they die. Like, it's so inhumane.
What new mindfuckery are they planning that they're trying to get us to trust the elites again? What new terrible policies? I mean,
it's like you got kicked out of the elites and now you want back in. Is that what's going on?
Maybe.
You still want to be the elite?
did this guy get kicked out? It sounds like he was into the
I don't know
lockdown.
about this
Yeah.
guy, but I'm talking about other people that
Yeah.
I'm not naming.
They want to be the new elites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
fascinating. No, I'm never gonna stop being mad about what
like,
happened.
yeah,
That
it's sort of
was
just like they're creating their own little new elite, right? Like, it's
hmm
like, okay, we left this elite, that's over. Now we're starting our own.
I can't believe how insane people went. I can't believe that they won't admit it, that they won't apologize for it, that they won't acknowledge there's something deeply dysfunctional in them that made them believe this craziness. The one I heard today was someone talking about the policies at a birth center here in my town where they were forced to mask during labor at this birth center, but the women were allowed to take the mask down during contractions when they're yelling, like they're spewing their breath all through the room, and that anyone in medicine could think that's a reasonable policy. That's an asinine policy. Like, let her have the mask off the entire time. If you're going to allow her to take the mask down while
Imagine
she's
forcing a woman to wear a mask while she's giving birth. I remember reading
yeah
the account of the woman. She's like this libtard cartoonist for, I think, New York Times or New Yorker or something like that. And she was talking about when she gave birth. She was like, I tried my best to keep my mask
oh
on
my
the
god
whole time. And I was like, what? Like, that's what you were focused on when you were giving birth, is trying to keep your mask on? What is
mm-hmm.
wrong? And you're proud of yourself for this? Like, you're bragging about this? Like, this makes you like a
Yeah.
good person or something? Like,
Well, and what's
God.
nuts is like the mainstream OBs, like the actual hospital birthing units here, did not require women to wear masks. They asked that family members and other people wear masks, but they didn't police pregnant women and birthing women. But this birth center that is full of like good virtue signaling rule followers with pronouns in their bios that make women take all sorts of loyalty oath classes beforehand, that they, when they pretend to be about women's autonomy, and they were forcing women to wear masks, they were forcing the partners, this is what I've heard, they were forcing the partners to use a porta potty outside of the birth center to prevent the spread of COVID. None of this makes any sense, and it's just inhumane and cruel. And I don't know, I'm more upset about the midwives doing that, or the sheeple agreeing to these asinine regulations that make no sense from a public health policy perspective.
No, and going along with it so that they can, like, I'm such a good person for keeping my mask on this whole time for no reason at all.
Oh, but not during contractions, during a natural birth when I'm like yelling. It's so stupid. Like, you're breathing calmly in between contractions, and then you're like really spreading your breath through the room during contractions. It makes me so mad at how irrational it is. I know, but I have to return to my mantra that I tried to repeat over and over again during COVID, which was, the suffering comes from wanting it to make sense.
It does. The suffering does come from wanting it to make sense. That's true. I know that's not exactly what it means, but you're right. It's like, it does cause me a lot of suffering. Yes. I want it to make sense.
You're right. It does. That's the suffering. So just let it go. It just makes no sense.
It's like the way that I'm being driven crazy by the Canadians who are like, elbows up, we're voting for Mark Carney, who was the economic advisor to Trudeau for the past 5 years when he destroyed the Canadian economy, but he's going to save the economy, get rid of Trump. Like, you're insane. You're insane.
And he's a former Goldman Sachs executive who was the head of the Bank of England, but he's a man of the people, and it's democracy in action.
Well, the election's on Monday, so we'll see what the Canadian people have done to themselves then.
Do you have a prediction?
No, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm always wrong, so I'm not going to make a prediction. But I will tell you that I would not be surprised if the Liberals won. I think Polyev will win, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it'll be a landslide. And the Liberals are going to win some seats for sure. So they're not going to be totally kicked out of power, which they were going to be pre-January.
I know, before shenanigans.
And yeah, I don't know. If anybody's watching in East Van, don't forget to vote for me. I haven't been able to do campaigning, so I don't suspect I'll be getting very many votes at all. I haven't been able to make much advancements over there, but whatever. I'm amused just by my name being on the ballot. It's good enough for me. I have some signs around Vancouver tormenting people that one woman was like, I put up my lawn signs and somebody stole them. Happening already.
What does elbows up even mean?
Oh, nothing. It's so stupid. It's like a hockey thing. Supposedly the liberals invented to try to sound cool, but they're so freaking uncool. So they have all these like loser nerd boomers, the biggest nerd loser boomers I've ever seen in my life, going like this in their line to vote. Elbows up. No more Trump. Like the most embarrassing cringe. Like don't want to be a Canadian anymore because I don't want to be associated with this people nerds. Like they think it's like tough. Like we're saying no to Trump by voting for Mark Carney.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, guys. That's so cool. Cool. You're voting for communism. You're voting for more, like literally, Mark Carney was the economic advisor to Trudeau this whole time. He's not new. There's nothing new. It's the same horrible, shitty party. He was on board with invoking the Emergencies Act and freezing the bank accounts of the convoy people. This is a millionaire elite robot who's going to give us, a digital currency and then shut down your access to groceries if you do a wrong thing. So enjoy. Cool.
Enjoy that.
Tough guys. So cool.
Sounds like you don't have quite enough trust in the experts.
Or the elites.
They're the elites, right? Exactly.
All right. Well, I'll always trust the poors. I've always been working class aligned. I have. I never even I've never even related to women who want to date rich men. I don't think I've ever been attracted to a rich man in my life.
Yeah.
Maybe to my own detriment, but I'm not impressed by money or elitism at all. And I think my working class rebel roots, whether or not that began with Marxism or not, I have a lot to thank for my poverty and the kind of authenticity that has ensured that I'll never own a home.
Not with your bank account frozen.
But
all right.
Thank you, puppy.
Wow.
A hug. Okay.
She's so cute.
Okay, good to see you.
You too, as always. All right.
Okay, we'll see you guys. We'll be back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I think I've fixed my monetization here on YouTube, so that's good news, but I'll keep you in the loop about that. Mary Lou, when is your herbal workshop now?
It starts June 3rd and goes through September 16th, Tuesday evenings. It's all online, so you can join from anywhere in the world. It'll be recorded. And you can sign up on my website at enchantedfamilymedicine.com.
Okay, good news. If anybody wants to follow my work and they're not already, go to meganmurphy.ca and please become a paid subscriber so that I can keep buying bacon at the butcher. And yeah, we'll see everyone next week. Okay, take care.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Yeah.